It has been a question brewing my mind for months ever since I first saw this meme. However, the first thing that I noticed while looking at it was how inaccurate the numbers were. There's no way in the whole history of Fire Emblem there's only 11 Lolis, and I've played Girls Frontline, and there's definitely more than 17 guns depicted as little girls. If we're gonna make fun of Azur Lane and Azur Lane Kumars, we need to at least be accurate. So I've been collecting data and making charts of the most popular gacha games to find out for real which gacha game has the most Lolis. Before we get into the data and draw conclusions, we need to get some ground rules set. This data is more based on how characters look, rather than hard canon facts. This is due to the nature of some of the characters in these games. So special thanks to Kitsune Noble, Powerbred, Salem Frost, Dragonface 99, and A Lizard for going through all these gacha games and determining if each character is a child or not. Which surprisingly worked out perfectly, because these degenerates have a wide spectrum of determining what is a loli. Oh, and me? Yeah, I'm not stupid. If I can get other people to look at thousands of images of anime characters for an asinine reason, why would I waste my time looking at it myself? Also, we don't do double standards here. So for all intents and purposes, shotas are lolis here. You know what they say, boys make the best girls. It just makes the whole process easier, and it doesn't really affect the numbers that much, as most gacha games elect to not make shotas at all. And finally, for the final conclusion of this data, we're going to use the percentage of the cast that are children, not the total number. This allows new games to compete with the dinosaurs of gacha games past. Going in the original order of the meme, Fire Emblem Heroes is up first. Launching globally in February 2017, Fire Emblem Heroes is Nintendo's celebration of the Fire Emblem series, and of obsessive girls with big tits. In Fire Emblem Heroes, you take on the role of the Summoner, a mysterious hooded mage who can summon fan service for horny teenagers and balding Nintendo boomers with the power of a portal gun. Kinda crazy how this has happened twice in the Fire Emblem series. So the thing about Fire Emblem Heroes is that it's an older game that has a constant stream of 5 or so characters coming out every month, which means there's a lot of characters. Like, a lot of characters. Something to the tune of 878 characters, which is most likely inaccurate now due to how fast Fire Emblem Heroes pumps out characters. The average amount of lolis found in Fire Emblem Heroes is 136.3 lolis. This is an astounding 1,239% increase from the original meme that started this whole thing, which also makes the percentage of characters in Fire Emblem Heroes that are children a respectable 15.5%. Some flaws to point out in this data, however, it is debatable to count alternate forms of a character as a new character or not for the purposes of determining which game has the most lolis. On one hand, it's the same character. On the other, it's a separate chance to roll and acquire them. I have elected to go with the latter because it made reading the list easier. I mean, as Fire Emblem is known for the whole little girl that's actually a 1,000-year-old dragon meme, it's a lot lower than I thought. Good job, Nintendo. Next up from the original meme is Girls Frontline, the game I have personally played the most out of anything here. Released in May of 2016, it is the second oldest game on this roster. In Girls Frontline, you take on the role of the new commander of Griffin Kruger PMC, and you have to lead your army of refurbished sex robots that think they're obsolete weapons to fight against Skynet, which also makes their killer robots sexy for some reason. Girls Frontline is one of the main reasons why I didn't want to add canon age as a factor, since how do you define canon age for a robot? Does age even matter for robots? Does anyone actually care? I don't know, I don't want to think about it, and I don't want to read the lore for thousands of characters. So the average amount of lolis in Girls Frontline is 109 lolis, making 27.8% of the cast lolis, a 641.1% increase from the numbers determined in the original meme. And interestingly enough, Girls Frontline actually has a lot less lolis than Fire Emblem Heroes. However, there is something even more interesting to consider with the data collected from Girls Frontline. There is a huge discrepancy between the results of most of the subjects, as Orange and Red saw almost twice as many lolis in Girls Frontline when compared to the rest of the subjects. It also seems like Red wasn't exactly paying attention on this one, as they marked this character as a loli. However, it's still in standard deviation of the data, so it's fine that there are some questionable ratings that may have affected the overall score. Released in July of 2015, the gacha game dinosaur known as Fate Grand Order was one of the largest step forward in normalizing hentai in modern day society. A game that weebs and degenerates everywhere know, but like nobody actually plays? Fate Grand Order sees you take on the role of the female version of that guy from the last hentai doujin you read, as you do something? Nobody actually reads FGO's story, right? So Mina, sorry. In some respects, Fate Grand Order is kind of the anti-Girls Frontline for determining data, as it helps solidify the fact that characters do not get a canon age excuse from being a loli. This is due to the cast being more ancient than the game itself. Fate Grand Order actually has some of the most surprising results when compared to the original meme, having an average of 43.8 lolis, meaning that only 15.1% of the cast are children. This represents a 243.3% increase from the original meme, and actually places Fate Grand Order on the bottom? Top? I'm not exactly sure what to label this since this list is tiered, but not a tier list. Regardless, Fate Grand Order has a lot less lolis than both Girls Frontline and Fire Emblem Heroes unweighted and percent-wise, moving it 2 places. It is actually kinda crazy that the oldest game on this list might have the lowest unweighted and weighted amount of lolis. Now it's time for the champion of the meme that started this whole effort that was 100% not worth the time it took. Azur Lane. Yes, Azur Lane, the Coomer's paradise that opened its gates in May of 2017, notorious for being filled with lolis and women with serious back problems. And that funny dumb Essex girl. Azur Lane had to take on the role of an Allies naval commander during the Pacific campaign of World War II. I'm not being hyperbolic like the other synopsis, this is literally the story of Azur Lane. Having a staggering 258.8 average lolis, which make up a massive 45.6% of the cast, nobody's actually surprised. I mean, come on, it's Azur Lane. This is a 241.9% increase from the original meme, but that's not all. It's also 1.89 times the amount of lolis in the next largest unweighted total, and 5.9 times the amount of unweighted lolis in Fate Grand Order. Now that we have all the data, here's the corrected list of lolis, and you can see the numbers are much larger than before, and the placements shift around a lot. Boom, here's a percent one as well because I find it interesting. It is more true to the original meme, Fate Grand Order just kinda moved to the lowest amount spot. However, these are boomer games. Like, come on. Fate Grand Order is like, what, 7 years old? That is literally older than some of the lolis in the game. Let's bring in some new blood, you know, games that people actually play, rather than pretend or remember playing. First off, we have Arknights, released in May of 2019 by a bunch of angry ex-Girls Frontline employees. You take on the role of a doctor in charge of a zoo, where the animals are furries, and they come equipped with various weaponry and magic, which comes in handy as you commit acts of terrorism. The average amount of lolis in Girls Frontline 2 is 45.2, making 19.2% of the cast's actual children. Arknights is catching up to its older sister fast in the loli department. Despite being only 1/3 of Girls Frontline's age, it has about 41% of the amount of lolis. Arknights data has also surprisingly had a reverse phenomena found in Girls Frontline, where one of the subjects identified half as many characters as lolis than the rest. This time it was Purple who seemed to be an outlier, however it's fine and it was within standard deviation. What this may mean, however, is that Arknights may have many young characters, but most of them are just young and not super child looking, which may have caused this divide. With Arknights data added, the spectrum of lolis in gacha games now look like this, shooting above Fire Emblem Heroes but not enough to surpass Girls Frontline. Now it's time to go over the most popular game of the bunch, Genshin Impact, everyone's favorite Breath of the Wild clone from 2020. Genshin Impact has you play as the Traveler as you meander across the world Teyvat to find an alternate reality version of yourself that picked the male Traveler. But of course, that will never happen, and instead you just interact with characters that people can't stop cooking over. And I don't understand why, because the main reason why I dropped. So what does a modern gacha game juggernaut look like? Average loli count? 14.6 lolis, making 25.2% of the cast children. Now what makes Genshin Impact special is that they have specific model size brackets for characters. Every female small was recognized as a loli by all subjects. However, the real variance in Genshin Impact took place in the medium male and medium female model characters. Of course, Genshin also has the smallest cast event in the games here, so each loli does matter more. This has caused a large difference between the highest and lowest loli percent, 13.8% difference, but the unweighted difference is only 8. With Genshin Impact in the mix, the new list looks like this. Not enough lolis in the cast to overpass Girls Frontline, but definitely more than Arknights. Now all these new age games are great and all, but nobody is actually contesting Azur Lane for the loli championship. It's like the only thing that can beat a game with Yostar's funding is another game with Yostar's funding. Enter Blue Archive. Blue Archive released in February of 2021. In Blue Archive, you take on the role of the only male teacher on an island filled with all girls schools that are filled with school shooters that want their parents to sign sexual consent forms so that you can fill them. I mean, with a plot like that, you know canonically almost all the characters are not of legal age. But remember, our focus here is on who looks young, who looks like a child. So with that in mind, the average amount of lolis is 75.6 lolis, which means that 64% of the characters are lolis. I knew there was gonna be a lot, but like more than half? I mean, Blue Archive is the crab meme game, but like more than half the characters added being Lolis? Well, here's the final list. Congratulations, Blue Archive, you have the highest percentage of Lolis in your cast.